I'm so excited today to have a conversation with Dr. Rachel Erickson. She's one of my favorite healing practitioners in the world, by the way. I have loved holistic medicine and naturopathic medicine all of my life. And luckily, I've had it in my life to some degree, my entire life. And when my daughter found Dr. Erickson, because I think all of my kids are intuitive, I went, oh, honey, she's really good. Can I have that phone number? So I became eventually a patient of Dr. Erickson's, and I refer all of my patients who can see her to her because I think she's really incredible. So Dr. Erickson, I'm just going to give a little of your, background, history, and information, and then we can jump into the conversation of traditional health and holistic health. And because a lot of people haven't had those experiences where they live in the part of the world where it's really not super available to them. So yes, I'm so thrilled you're here to give us all this talk. So Dr. Erickson graduated from Bastyr University. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's in Washington State. It is considered a premier naturopathic university. You graduated in 2008, when I think it was at its like highest functioning wellness. Like it was just like, man, oh man, oh man. You would agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And now there's other universities that are popping up around the country, which is also fantastic. It's still here, like 20 minutes from my house at the most. You have your doctorate degree in naturopathic medicine. You are a licensed and practicing naturopath. You work in your own clinic, the Alder Grove Healing Arts Center in Wallingford, which is like a 45-minute drive for me. And you did your undergrad at the University of Washington, amazing university. And you did it in biochemistry and botany, which is really amazing. Botany is like, how smart are you? Like you're so smart. And you really, really love human physiology, which in my opinion is what medicine should be based on, is the physiology. It's unique and different for every person, and it's rich and powerful. And it's not one size fits all. Everyone's kind of different, right? Yeah. Dr. Erickson's mission is to be your healthcare advocate, help you navigate the medical world, educate you on how your body works and how it's out of balance, and provide you with resources to treat all of one's health concerns. And also provide options, conventional and non-conventional, which is one of the things I also love about you. We have to embrace all forms of medicine because we never know exactly what's going to work. And it doesn't really matter as long as it works, right? You say your specialty is being your go-to person for any ailment and to help you understand all the resources, botanicals and medicine practitioners and services you need to find your health again, which is amazing. You have done that for me. You've done tons of research for me, which is lovely. The amazing thing about medicine, I'm quoting you, is that it is not just the physiology and biology that matters. That isn't the totality of a human being. The heart and soul of every patient I see tells me as much about their ailments and struggles as their answers hidden in their bodies. Such a beautiful thing. It's not a pill, it's not a quick fix. And I work as a detective, guide, and ally alongside each of you to discover what is blocking your way to the fullest chance at healing and balance. It's about bringing science to the art of healing. Above all else, I see myself as a long-term advocate here to guide and inspire people to live a healthier and more healthier and heartfelt life. Yeah. So thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule and being part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
So what attracted you to traditional medicine initially?
I think a couple big factors. My grandma was very into homeopathic medicine. And so I grew up in an environment where the solution wasn't just to go to a doctor. And I had an uncle who was an acupuncturist. But I think those were maybe background noises until I saw a naturopath myself when I was about 20 years old. And at that point, I was in the middle of my botany, Bachelor of Science in Botany degree. And I saw her once and immediately knew that this is what I want to do. And it was so just like this fire. So then I figured out, what classes I needed to make sure to have so that I was all set to start grad school like 2 years later. Yeah, and I just jumped right on. I took a gap year and then I went straight to
Yeah.
Bastyr and did it in 4 years. And yeah, I graduated at the very young age of 27. And
Well, you are
yeah,
young. I mean, you are young to have such a big full practice and all the experience that you've already had.
yeah. This January, I will have been in practice for 14 years.
That is
Yeah,
incredible.
I know.
So, you have this great love for holistic medicine and you decide to become a naturopath, which is incredible and amazing. And you go to one of the best, universities in the world for that education, which is also
Yeah,
incredible. But you also happen to love modern medicine too. I mean, you have interest and respect in it, which
yeah,
is really
yeah.
fantastic because you need your doctors to talk to each other at some point,
Hmm.
potentially. And we
Hmm.
don't always see that. Sometimes modern medicine isn't excited about holistic medicine, and sometimes holistic medicine isn't excited about modern medicine. But that's not your perception at all.
No, I mean, I would say when I first started practice, I didn't realize how much I would rely on conventional medicine. Um, and in the words of John Bastyr, you have to do what works. And so what I realized is that while naturopaths, our goal is to do as little as possible, first do no harm. That's one of the tenets of naturopathic medicine. That from there we escalate layer by layer until we need conventional medicine. And that could be, I need a cardiologist because they have tools to diagnose what's going on with your heart that I just don't have. Or I need, you need more intervention and it's outside of my skill base. And so I would like you to see, a rheumatologist or a gastroenterologist. And so, I will utilize specialists to help a person create a bigger healthcare team. But that also goes for the alternative medicine world. I will just as often say, I really think an acupuncturist would be a game changer here for you, especially if they could add in some Chinese herbs or what about cranial psychotherapy or all of the structural medicine modalities that we have available, particularly in the Seattle area. But yeah, I think it's important that we be able to understand that a person's journey through health requires more than just me, and that part of my job is to be able to see when somebody is in need of something more and to be able to get a sense of what that moreness is, right? So yeah, and then I've started utilizing more conventional medicine in my own practice in terms of compounded medications, pharmaceutical medications, even obviously standardized lab testing, to be able to affect change in somebody's body. The goal is that we're not using those tools to suppress a symptom, but to change a chemistry or a biology or a physiology in the body so their body can work better. Um, Sometimes we need pharmaceutical medications to override a genetic issue, like hypertension, for instance. So often it's got such a strong genetic component, and natural remedies, which we may try at first, if they don't succeed, the most important thing is that somebody's blood pressure is in a normal range to protect their kidneys, to protect their retinas, things like that, right? So then we have to reach for the pharmaceutical world. But it's not the first decision.
Right. You know what some people probably don't know, because this will be seen, by people who live all over the world. And there are many people who don't know that naturopathic doctors are physicians. You can prescribe conventional and non-conventional medication. So when your patient comes to you that has, let's say, genetic hypertension and holistic remedies aren't working or whatnot, or you need to quickly get that blood pressure down, naturopathic doctors can prescribe many forms of modern medicine. So you can work so well with your patient even as they've gone out to their cardiologist and had an echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound of the heart, and had whatever labs you recommend, because most naturopaths have such a great understanding of epidemiology of the human body, they actually ask for more labs in the physiology of the human body than most modern medicine doctors. So you would be running your own labs, and the cardiologist would be running those labs. And then let's say if for some reason someone does need a conventional medicine that you can prescribe, then also you can keep a close monitor of them. And perhaps at some point, if their immune system enhances or their levels become normal in other parts of their body, they might be able to go to a holistic form, which you can also prescribe.
I think that's the other thing that I do a lot, which is people come in with a list of medications and I help wean them off. But because I have the education and even post Bastyr education into pharmacology, I understand how to do that. And because I have those prescribing powers, I can also then have I have the licensure to help get people off of medications, which is really fun.
Really fun,
Yeah.
because even though it's so wonderful to have the gamut of traditional, and we call it traditional medicine because it was the beginning of medicine. Holistic medicine was the first medicine. Modern medicine that we have today is new. It's only a few hundred years old, and it's based on creating chemicals in a lab. The chemicals that, of course, are based on plants typically, but then they make it in a lab and use proteins and artificial ingredients that are not real, that are hard for the body to detox. And so, although you can prescribe conventional and holistic medicine, modern physicians don't usually have the knowledge to prescribe holistic medicine. They don't study it. They know very little even about the interactions between herbs and vitamins and pharmacology. They don't have any of that knowledge. And humanity as a whole is moving into, and has been for probably the last 2 decades, significantly into learning about supplements and how to help our health and well-being, and natural remedies, and eating organic food, and all of these lovely things that you and I were raised with. And modern medicine doesn't have the knowledge to really help their patients to go into holistic medications, correct?
Yeah, I like to tell people when they come to me and they're frustrated by their modern medicine experience, I really like those terms, actually, traditional versus modern versus conventional and alternative. I like that. So yeah, modern medicine physicians don't have the training in it. They don't have 2 years of botanical medicine like we do. So when people come to me and they're frustrated, what I say to them is, you have to understand they only have one tool in their tool belt, and I have a lot more. And so that makes a big difference for them not getting blown off. Because when doctors look at them puzzled, they say that you're everything's fine. There's nothing else I can do for you, which is true. That's true, but it leaves people feeling really hopeless and forlorn. And that's a lot of people that I see come to me from that space looking for something else.
Some sort of
And
solution. Now,
yeah,
that's very fascinating, interesting. That's really cool. I love that they find you and realize you have a much bigger toolbox, many more things to offer them. And I think what's else, I mean, I have a million things I could say about this whole topic, of course, but healing isn't just a quick fix, tomorrow you're better kind of thing. And that's kind of, at least in the American culture, how we've been raised, that you go to the doctor, you get an antibiotic or some pill and you're fine. But that's not true. And in fact, to heal the immune system, which is the culprit of illness anyway, something's awry in the immune system of some degree. You have to really have a lot of cellular knowledge to, first of all, decipher that within a human body as you start to, take the layers off of the medications that they've been on that are modern, and start to see how their body's responding without those medications, and start giving them herbs. And then the body starts talking, the labs start changing, the body starts talking to you, and then you can find, exactly what was wrong, so you can build up their immune system.
yeah.
And so what do you tell your patients who want it fixed tomorrow?
I don't get that response very quickly, or very often. I would say that I I definitely have had a few people where it's clear when I give them a timeline, um, by their body language. They roll their eyes, they slump in their chair, they sigh heavily. That when I'm giving them a timeline, I'm saying something like, for instance, autoimmune diseases. Those take a long time to turn around. Um, I tell people you need to expect 1 year minimum, closer to 2, even longer, to really turn around an autoimmune condition. And that requires a lot of effort on their part, including an entire overhaul of what they're eating. And it's a really quite a dramatic change in what the standard American diet looks like. And along with that, it's a lot of gut healing and immune modulation, which predominantly is through the adrenals. And it's quite a complex dance to get somebody's immune system to chill out in a pretty big way. Um, and a lot of times people will balk at that. Like, how am I supposed to eat like this for 2 years? And I'll say, well, you don't have to. This is totally your choice. I'm giving you my best solution. And do you want to live with rheumatoid arthritis for the next 30 years, or do you want to eat really strictly for 2? And you don't have to start this tomorrow. You can, really, we can gently ease into it. I often will have people come back in monthly for more like nutritional check-ins, like let's do some brainstorming. How are you feeling? What are you eating? Where are you struggling? Uh, where are you feeling confused, or where you need some ideas of meal planning, food options. So sometimes it's just being more of that like cheerleader, to encourage them, like, you can keep going. I know this is difficult and really challenging.
Well, I
Yeah.
love that you explained that to them, because of our American, and I can only speak for the American healthcare system, right? That's all I've experienced, really, is that doctors they don't understand the immune system, modern medicine, because you're a doctor. So modern medicine practitioners don't understand the immune system. And so it gets so trashed by the time someone, has to go and find a practitioner who can help them get well. That's why it
Yeah.
takes so long for it to heal, because it takes years to break down the immune system, decades sometimes, of very simple tests that had been, if they had been done earlier, would have been easily recognized, and then we could have done things to support the immune system. But modern medicine only knows how to, at this point, they're growing and changing too, and like you, I appreciate all forms of medicine. They believe in killing the immune system in order to hopefully get it to reboot, almost like a computer. That's what they're hoping, it's going to reboot. That works for a very small percentage of individuals, right? Most people,
Mhm.
you have to feed their immune system. It has to grow and be nurtured and cared for. And it's like the plankton in the ocean. It's very delicate. And once it starts to be disrupted, it takes a while to build it back.
Yeah. The What's going on in the gut in particular plays a huge and vital role in immune regulation. The immune system is really strongly regulated by, and I would call it, like, how it builds its tolerance is by the abundance and diversity of your gut flora. The more abundance and diversity you have, the more your immune system recognizes a plethora of different molecules and living beings as normal. And that really helps to calm that immune system down. And then the other really big piece that I actually didn't learn until I was well into practice is the role of the adrenals and cortisol in regulating immune function. And that dysregulated adrenal function, either overactive, all of our caffeine drinkers, I know you're out there, and all of our, extremely deficient adrenal function folks also have a very dysregulated immune system. Cortisol plays a huge role in the regulatory pathways of the immune system. And yet rheumatologists don't ever touch on this. Infectious disease specialists don't touch on this. So this is that more, really how interconnected everything is in our bodies, which is, why I'm so passionate, particularly about being a primary care physician, is that, the thought of not addressing the totality of the human form, whatever somebody walks in with, feels contrary to what I was taught in school in terms of how connected everything is. It's really an important understanding to make.
I love what you just said when you brought up cortisol levels, because in modern medicine, they wait until you're practically at death's door with elevated cortisol levels before they even consider that it's a problem or that it needs to be addressed or looked at. So we have probably millions and millions and millions of people throughout the United States, but probably throughout the world, who run on very high cortisol levels, which are extremely unhealthy for their body and affect all of their hormones in their physical form, by the way. Like sometimes when I'm working on a client, I'm like, your hormones are really off. I sometimes don't know which one it is, but I just keep hearing hormones, hormones, hormones. So of course I refer them, if they're local, to you, and we'll talk about, what that could look like for other people who don't live here in Washington State. Or ask them to see a naturopath to have all their hormones checked out, because I sometimes can't see, because the conversation is so complex and out of balance and the hormones are just screaming at me. Many times it is, if I'm working with women, it is their reproductive hormones, but many times I couldn't see it was the cortisol level, when they go in to get it checked and their cortisol level is off the charts. Like they are so close to modern medicine's intervention, which we don't want people to get to that place.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot with patients in terms of, modern medicine looks at it in terms of, Cushing's or Addison's, basically the two very extremes of adrenal function or dysfunction, hyperfunction or underfunction. And that's typically involving the brain. And what I tell people is like, there's the whole gray area between, the overacting adrenals and the completely dead adrenals. And that is what I call adrenal insufficiency. I don't really like the term adrenal fatigue. I think that the adrenal glands are a very responsive organ to the information that they're receiving. And they're a little workhorse. But if they don't have the nutrients that they need, or if the signaling is messed up between the brain and the adrenals, then they're not going to be able to function in an optimal way. But they're still not pathological in these extreme bell curve places of Addison's and Cushing's. And that's where I find stimulant use is a huge detriment to people's adrenals, and why I'm adamant that my 12-year-old cannot drink coffee, even though she wants to so badly. And I've weaned hundreds of people off of caffeine over the past 10 years, because I've just seen how fundamentally improved they feel without that constant morning stimulant that really trains the brain and the adrenal glands to communicate in a way that really isn't healthy for our bodies long term.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So you prefer adrenal insufficiency, right?
I do.
And by the time a patient is diagnosed with Addison's or Cushing's, I mean, this is a hospital emergency kind of protocol. So we don't want that, and the beautiful thing, this is the interesting part, again, the difference between modern medicine and of course, traditional medicine, is that herbs and supplements can actually feed or balance out the adrenal glands. Healthy things that come from nature that have no pesticide in them. They don't need to be broken down. The byproducts don't need to be, released through your liver. It's just incredible. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say in terms of herbal medicine, the endocrine system is so responsive to herbs in particular. The ovaries, the adrenals, the thyroid, they love herbs. We can create so much change. And it's often, I never do herbs without nutrients, right? Because we can help the body communicate better with herbs. We can modulate activity with herbs, but if those organs or endocrine systems don't have the nutrients that they need to do their job, then it's all for nothing. So it's always in concert with, changes in diet and what I call supraphysiologic dosing of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, things like that, so that their bodies just are saturated for a period of time so that everything can just soak it up. Like a plant that's just dry and you just put it in the bucket of water for 12 hours so that everything just gets saturated. That's what I try to do with nutrients, is do those higher doses for periods of time so their bodies can really drink
I
it all up.
I love what you just said, because because sometimes some people can't absorb a lot of supplements if their intestinal tract is not very healthy, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're high dosing them on nutrients, which they have to eat, humanity has to eat food,
Mhm.
regular food throughout the day just to survive, and ride your bike or drive your car, or answer your email. You have to have beautiful, nutrients. I think that's amazing. What a great idea. I love this idea of just super, infusing nutrients into the body. Love, love, love like that. And of course, giving them the supplements that they can handle, that their body can take in and let it work with those nutrients that
Yeah.
can help push it further into their system and allow for their immune system to kick in. Because the human body is actually, there's nothing wrong with it. It's super smart. It's very intelligent. It knows how to
Mhm.
heal. It loves to be
Mhm.
healthy. It's just that
Mhm.
we have forgotten what health, what it really looks like.
Yeah, I think we've forgotten what the lifestyle feels like. And I think that's somewhat driven by our culture, 40-hour plus work weeks. How are you supposed to have self-care practices and cook a meal and take care of your kids, let alone spend time with them and get all of your errands done if you're working 40 hours a week? I think there's a big part of what I see is that people don't have the time that they need to be able to think about what that care and food and exercise regimen looks like for them that's healthy.
Wow. I agree. I think that's why, even though I wish no one any ill health, why I liked the after effects of the pandemic, that more and more people work from home, because you
Yeah.
can walk into the kitchen with your slippers and even just make a
Yeah.
sandwich on some organic bread and non-processed food, and maybe walk
Mhm.
your dog for 15 minutes, where you can't
Mhm.
do that when
Yeah.
you have to drive an hour into the office and wear clothes you don't really feel comfortable in, and maybe have conversations with people you're not really enjoying, and then get back in the car and then you're exhausted, you have to go to sleep to rebuild your energy system to go do it all over again.
Mhm.
So have you noticed with your patients, that those who have been able to transition to working from home, have you noticed any changes with that paradigm?
Um, I would say that the pandemic brought a lot of anxiety and depression to my patients. And then, especially in that first year, the isolation was extremely challenging, and was really very negatively impacted pretty much all of our health. I would say once everything started opening back up and movement and social activity, et cetera, was more available, and people still had job flexibility with working from home, there was a deeper sense of relaxation that I've seen in my patient population, where they do have time to tend to some things in little breaks during their day, like getting their laundry put in the washer over their lunch break, walking their dogs. I walk my dogs every Thursday and Friday when I'm working from home on my lunch break, as long as it's not pouring Seattle rain. Things like that. Being able to not have that commute gave them an extra 30 to 60 minutes or more a day of time to be able to cook a meal, um, or get some exercise. And so I think that the time component has definitely positively impacted people. I think the working from home component has significantly reduced people's work stress,
Wow.
mostly.
I
Yeah.
agree. I really agree. I
Yeah.
guess I didn't have that sadness, depression. I can think of one of my son-in-laws maybe did, because he's going back into the office. He looks very happy, where his wife is still working from home and she's exhausted now because she doesn't have his help, but he looks really happy. So yeah, there's a bunch of people who need that socialization and get out of the house and just be out and around other people, even if it's just a couple days a week, if it's not, 7 days a week. All right. So I want to, bring in this whole aspect. So naturopathic physicians are very, very educated. I think that's something we need to have a little bit of conversation about, that because there are many people who've never experienced a naturopath. We have, I think, 27 states where naturopaths are licensed practitioners in the United States. Obviously, Washington State is one of them. I know that many states are working on creating a movement into that practice because more and more people are seeking naturopaths. Right. So maybe you could just describe a little bit of what you think was the fundamental difference in your education versus a modern medicine physician.
Yeah, I actually I had a friend who was in medical school while I was in naturopathic medical school. I would say initially it's very similar. Biochemistry, physiology, anatomy, cadaver dissection, all of that. The first and second year were almost the same. And then all of the ologies, cardiology, pulmonology, gastroenterology, we had all of those classes. Where we really started to diverge was in our third and fourth years, where he had, I think, a year or 2 years of pharmacology and 1/4 of nutrition. I had 2 years of botanical medicine and 1 year or 2 years of nutrition, and 1/4 of pharmacology. Which honestly, I think needs to be more. I think we need a solid full year or 2 years of pharmacology. I had to do most of that education outside of Bastyr. But yeah, so I would say, and then we got to take classes like traditional Chinese medicine to get a sense of what is that about, and lots of physical medicine classes were elective options. Like we are allowed to do chiropractic manual manipulation. I did a year of craniosacral therapy. I did half a year of visceral manipulation. Lots of different electives, but those kind of core classes, ethics and things like that, those are all pretty comparable, except when we have a cardiology class, we're not just learning the modern version of medications. We're also learning about hawthorn berry and arginine and the importance of minerals for heart arrhythmias and et cetera, right? So we all of those the ology classes, we had not only the conventional approach, but also the traditional approach in the herbal medicine and the nutritive supports. So yeah, some big differences there, big divergence. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you needed to learn more about pharmacology out in your experience with your patients. And then modern medicine doctors have to learn about herbs and vitamins and supplements and botany if they want to, if they choose.
If they want to.
Yeah, outside of modern medicine. Also, I know naturopathic universities have their own clinics. So you see patients on top of all of your your classes and learning both sides of medicine. You also see patients in the clinics, which is fantastic and wonderful to just, have all of that experience while you're in school.
Yeah, we had to have, I think, 200 observable hours where we would shadow other doctors in various clinics. And then we had, I don't remember how many hours of clinical hours we had where we actually had hands-on time with patients. And those were at senior centers, community centers, Bastyr Natural Center for Natural Health, down in Wallingford, on campus. At Bastyr in Kenmore. So yeah, lots of different locations for that. Yeah, definitely. definitely need a lot of hands-on experience to be able to bring all of this knowledge into practice. And even then, it's never enough. You got to get your feet wet and really get into it when you're, when you finally graduate. And then, I would say it takes, I don't know, I think I felt like I was a really competent physician after about 6 years.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I know I'm going to get this question a lot, and I want to make sure you offer the information because I don't always understand it. But if people don't live in Washington State, but they want to see you,
Yeah.
how can that happen? Like, tell me
Yeah.
the rules. Yeah.
So yeah, the rules, it's a little bit variable state by state. So Washington State, we have by far the biggest scope of practice of any state. In terms of like, I am a licensed primary care physician. We can't really do that in a lot of states. It depends on the states. There are certain states that are completely unlicensed and it's illegal to practice naturopathic medicine. And so in those states, I can't very easily provide any nutritional advice, supplemental advice, nutrient advice, or of course, no medical advice whatsoever. A lot of states are kind of in that they're licensed, but I'm not licensed in that state. So then I have to fall back into I'm a health coach, which means that I can provide nutritional advice and supplemental advice, but I can't order labs and I can't refer to physicians and I can't prescribe pharmaceuticals. So for my out-of-state patients, which I have a lot, I make a note, this is health consult only. And the basic outline is I explain, I'm going to cite research and give you, let's say, I really think they need to take HPA Adapt, your favorite supplement.
It really is my favorite supplement. And I was so happy when I met you because you also really love that supplement. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say I think they need some sort of adrenal support to modulate their cortisol production. So instead of spikes, they have rolling hills. The brain and the adrenals are communicating better. And so I can absolutely advise them. I really believe that you need to wean off of caffeine. And here's how I would recommend doing it. And then I can say something like, the herbs in HPA Adapt, studies show are effective adrenal modulators. So the typical dose for adrenal modulation is 2 capsules a day or twice a day. And then that way I can write that out and I can document that without crossing a line of I'm telling you to take it. So I just have to be careful with my wording. And then, for instance, if I think they need lab work done, I make them a list. I say, here's what I would like you to ask your primary care physician to order and see how amenable they are. And if they're not, maybe you could find somebody for a second opinion. And most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, the doctors are like, sure, I'll order those labs. And then I can look at them and I can explain what it means. I just can't offer advice based on them. And then when it comes to, I think you really need to see a gastroenterologist. I can certainly say, I can ask, when was your last colonoscopy? Have you had a checkup? I really do think that a colonoscopy would be important here, or I think you should see a gastroenterologist for, more diagnostics. I just can't write the referral, but I can certainly advise, that it would be best for you to see a medical doctor of this variety. I think that would be a good resource for you.
You just made me so happy. You made me so happy because I know you can help so many people, and maybe people who are, watching this recording, if they live in a state where it's illegal, perhaps they can work on changing that in their state, because we need, everybody needs to have as many options as possible when it comes to healing their body, because sometimes modern medicine doesn't actually work for certain people. I think you'll probably know what I'm talking about. I can't remember, but I think it was called Lorenzo's oil, where we had, children in the United States who had terrible seizure activities and no medications would touch it. And many kids died actually from the seizure activity. And it was the Mayo Clinic that actually came up with a diet high in oils that actually stop this type of seizure activity. So food is really the best medicine on the world, but not very many people eat healthy, and processed food is not really food. In my opinion, it's not food, it's chemicals. And your body can only have so many chemicals in it before it starts to have a reaction potentially, right? So I'm just elated and delighted that so many people can reach out to you and find ways to, heal their bodies, and have a very skilled practitioner who understands that we're changing the perception of medicine, right? Because that's what we're doing. Well, you're doing it, but I'm definitely an advocate for it. I guess I'm a part of it in a slightly different way.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. But I love how your knowledge and your expertise and your love of humanity and health and medicine and healing, that you bring all these beautiful skills to the world. And I just can't thank you enough for everything you do for all of us.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you want to say that's important for you, that you want to share?
I think I've been thinking about this a lot. Like I'm really fortunate in that I'm absolutely in love with what I do. Like I feel so blessed to just have this opportunity to provide a sounding board for people who are really struggling. And I think honestly, half of what I do is I just get curious and I really, really listen. And I think that's what so many people are missing. They see one person and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with you. There's nothing I can do. Or they do some blood work and they're like, everything looks fine. Okay, bye. Instead of saying, well, your labs look fine, but you're still not feeling well. What else can we think about? And really brainstorm. And I think that's a piece, like if there's anything that I would want people to really hear, it's that if you know something is wrong, something's wrong. And to really listen to that. Your body will only continue to get louder and louder and louder until you listen. So even if you feel like you're not getting what you need or the answers that elucidate something, that give you that feeling of relief of like, oh, that explains so much, that feeling. If you're not getting that, then keep digging. Like don't let a modern or traditional doctor tell you that there's nothing wrong when you know something's wrong. Or don't give up on yourself just because they don't have the time or the energy to spend digging deeper or the resources. I think one of the things that makes me unique and why I think people adore me isn't because I'm this amazing physician. It's because I really, really listen and I keep digging. I will keep digging. I don't just say, well, I can't figure it out. I don't think I can help you. I never say that. I will always be willing to come back to the drawing board and wipe the slate clean and say, okay, well, let's go through it again. What have we done? What have you tried? What are your symptoms? What are we missing? Who else can we talk to? Who can I talk to? What research can I do? And I think that's the piece that I just really want people to know, is that everybody deserves that. And a lot of physicians are really tired and they're overworked and they don't have the mental capacity. And that's not your fault. And that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to find out the answers.
I just love everything that you said. I think it's so important for us to realize that, there are always answers and solutions. They exist.
Yeah.
They absolutely exist. And maybe one of the reasons why it's hard for a modern medicine doctor to see that something is wrong, because they actually don't look deep enough. Traditional medicine goes very unique in their labs. Like modern medicine doctors have never heard of some of the labs that traditional physicians actually request when they're ordering labs for their patients. They've never heard of them. And so you get really deep into the physiology of what's going on in that unique person. So we're very blessed to have you on the planet, Dr. Erickson.
Thank you.
We really are. And I think you're helping to change the perception of what medicine means. And it
Yeah.
should be joyful. Whatever we do in the world, it should be joyful. We should feel that it's a
Mhm.
blessed if we're going to work or have a hobby or whatever. Those are
Mhm.
actually, I know they're unusual, but those are normal. Everything you just said is normal. People should
Mhm.
feel joy in what they do throughout the day, and they
Mhm.
should feel blessed to do it. And everybody has a calling. Everybody has something that would inspire them and get them motivated, and
Mhm.
their talents would emerge. But thank you for being such a great role model and
Thank
advocate
you.
for humanity's health and well-being. I appreciate you enormously, and thank you for spending so much time with me today.
Thank you for interviewing me. That was really fun.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah.